Listening to this podcast right now! Do you want to hear a fucking podcast about anything and everything? Yeah. Like movies, music, television, and more?
Oh my god.
Well, you've come to the right place.
Yes.
Subscribe to Journey into Comics Network, and you get Podcastrophe, hosted by me,
Yes.
Dick. Why not throw a couple bucks to the Patreon? It's your choice. Yeah. This is a Podcastrophe.
That sounds so awesome.
The following is a Journey into Comics Network production.
Hey, this is Josh Richmond, and you are listening to the Voice of Survival podcast, exclusively on the Journey into Comics Network.
You're listening to the Voice of Survival podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nate Phillips.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another Voice of Survival podcast. As the intro said, I'm your host, Nate. Today, we're celebrating the big one. It's episode 10. I can't believe I got here on this podcast. I had to fake it once on episode 8 and kind of give you guys a bullshit cast, but that's how podcasting works sometimes in this wild world. Today, I'm going to get right into it. I teased this on episode... Was that episode 8? It was episode 8. I teased episode 10's guest on episode 8. I said I'd have him. You guys know him from all over the Journey into Comics Network. He's been featured in Journey into Comics multiple times doing metal casts and other things. He's a member of Brews with Dudes for the most part. I feel like he's like technically a co-host, but doesn't have to be. I don't know if that makes sense. And then, of course, he is the birthing reason of the network, really, because Podcastrophe is kind of what sparked us to push this even further. Your interest of creating a new podcast mixing with what we had kind of intended on doing. It just kind of seemed like this perfect amalgamation. So today, joining me on the Voice of Survival, my good friend Blaine Tyner. Dick Tyner, Blaine, I don't know. I call you all various amalgamations of that.
Dr. Dongo.
Yeah. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going great. This has been a great weekend so far.
Yeah, man. You're up in my neck of the woods, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Second time you've been here.
Yeah.
Had to do the math on that one. The Phantom is with you this weekend, which is nice. I love that that's a thing now. We have this like Phantom character of the network.
At first it was Silent Rob, and now it's
the Phantom. See, Silent Rob has evolved. He might have even changed shape. Who knows?
Oh no.
So today we're getting down to it. As always, I want to talk about how I met you. So I want to go back. Oh shit! If you're talking Journey into Comics land, it would have been around episode 40. It was probably a week before episode 40 came out. I drove down to Lafayette.
Yeah.
And I met Brando at Subaru. And it was second shifters.
Yeah.
You guys are coming out of work. I'm parked there. At the time, I literally only know Brando. I've heard Nick and I've heard Mike. They had done Surge and Crispy M&Ms with Brando.
Mm-hmm. That was the first episode I listened to of
You
JSC.
hadn't been a part of the network yet at this time. You come in between 40 and 50. I think one of those episodes is a Brando cast metal cast. I think it's 41 maybe. It doesn't matter. I digress. So I went to the parking lot. And I'm sitting there, and I think I sat there for like an hour and 10 minutes because, again, time changed. The whole thing, it's still kind of fresh to me. So you guys get out, walk over, and I think we sat outside the parking lot for like 50 minutes just shooting the shit between you, Nick, myself. Mike was there for a few minutes. He left. Brando was there. I think Matt Milliken might have been there for a couple minutes. I knew Matt from another earlier episode of Journey into Comics when we did Ghost Hunt. So I met you there for like a tenth of a second. Don't really get your personality. Haven't really got you. It was kind of the Nick show at that time. He was like
he does tend to do that,
and that's fine.
That's just him.
That's just his personality. So the very next day, we went to Mike and Joanna's to do a blind taste test and everything. and to my surprise, you're there.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, dude, cool. We should hang out."
Yeah, I wanted to help out. I didn't necessarily want to invite myself onto whatever you guys were doing, but I wanted to be there to help out with whatever. Turns out I didn't do anything.
And see, I assumed Brando just invited all his work friends to do this thing. I was like, "Fuck yeah, the more the merrier."
Right.
Like, that's been my philosophy with podcasting, is just bring all of the people. Like, you remember, you were part of episode 50.
Yeah.
Think about that. That was crazy.
That was a lot of fun.
9 different people on that episode. So I met you there briefly, and then again, the first time I'm like really hearing your voice as a podcaster, it's Dear Diary, mood apathetic, and you're like a fucking mile away from the microphone. You guys had mic trouble that day.
Yeah.
And then episode 50 happens. We get to know each other a little bit more, and then it's kind of spawned from there. We did the metal cast right after 50.
And you really got to know me then.
Absolutely. You introduced me to Parkway Drive, which I'm appreciative of. So it was just really cool because it's not like we did any really crazy bonding things. I mean, I guess podcasting is life and bonding, but it's not like we were doing crazy adventures together and like becoming friends.
Yeah.
We were becoming friends because we were like, hey, we're in these conversations together. What do we have in common? Which I love. Episode 51, of course, is I think it was actually episode 52 was the second. It was the second metal cast.
Yeah, we did some time traveling.
You and Nick teased the Podcastrophe.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into that later today, because that's like kind of the start of the journey where we really, really kick things off, and like you and I were in more contact, and I kept going, hey man, Podcastrophe, what's up with that? When's that happening? Hey, what's up? You know, and then of course that leads to future things, which you can all hear a lot of this retold on the network. Just check it out. But I want to go back to like where everything starts from you. Born and raised, where did you come from? What's your story, musically speaking? I know you're a guitar player. Where does that start? I guess we should start with the basics. Back it up a little bit. Where are you from?
I am from, I was raised I'm born in Lafayette. That's major hospitals. So basically born and raised in Delphi, Indiana.
St. Elizabeth?
No, I was home hospital before they tore it down a few years ago. But yeah, home hospital.
Okay, cool. Well, so you're born what year?
90.
1990. So you're the same age as my little sister. And you're weird. So my sister is March 5th. You're November 5th.
Yes.
I'll never forget that now. See, look at that tether. That's really wild.
You can't forget it. Remember the 5th
of November. Yeah, and that's Veronica's son's birthday as well. That's so bizarre to me. So you're born in Lafayette. Technically, you're raised in Delphi.
Yes.
Family.
Yeah.
Mom and dad. What's that like?
Okay, so my mom was still in high school.
Okay, totally.
She was 17.
My mom was 19, so I totally get that.
She was 17. My dad, not 17.
I like how
I think he was 24.
Okay, that's okay.
And so they got married, I think, a month after I was born.
Okay.
And then I don't know the exact timeline, but my guess is roughly around a year later they split up. And so my mom's always been like really smart in terms of myself and my brothers, and like raising us, because she knew the environment she was in.
Okay. And
she knew the environment that my dad was in, or my dad's side of the family versus my mom's side. Nothing against my mom's side of the family. I love them, but at the time, not the best environment for a small child.
Okay.
She's like, I know how I was raised, so she gave my dad full custody.
Okay.
Well, not exactly full custody, but I could visit, she could visit.
Weekends.
Yeah.
I get that.
So I grew up on my dad's side while visiting my mom on the weekends. And, I was mostly raised by my grandparents because my dad worked full-time. Yeah.
So I totally relate
I basically
to that
have two sets of parents.
Okay.
And it just made me who I am today, because I got a lot of different times. I'm trying to think of how to phrase that.
Sure.
Like ages of morals, You
were able to very obviously like learn from your experiences and witness how things were evolving between your parents and when you were with mom versus when you were with dad. I'm also a child of divorce. My parents were 8 when I got divorced, so I was a lot more in it. I felt the like tension of how that all happened, and it wasn't the best situation, but
Yeah.
that's just how it kind of happens. My dad also full custody, so I was raised by a single father. He never really had any like long-term companionship once he started raising me.
Same.
Dedication. That's all. He just focused on me, you know.
I can't say that my dad really focused on me, but like he never really. He still to this day has never.
But by way of working, because that's
Yeah.
what my dad
Okay.
was
Yeah.
too.
I get what you're saying. Though.
He worked to do everything he could for you. At least that's what I'm assuming. Because
Oh yeah, he definitely provided for me, like hardcore.
So, and then you obviously still have a really cool relationship with them both now.
Yes.
Your parents. That's great.
Yeah.
See, that's a good story. And like you were saying, having more than one parent, having grandparents help raise you, kind of it takes a community vibe.
It really does, and I can't be more grateful for being raised by my grandparents, because it, like I said, it made me who I am today. It instilled in me these morals that I have, these old school morals, while still being of this age, of this time period.
Absolutely.
This millennial that I am.
You're able to look at life now and take the morals that I'm speaking for, like I'm talking through you, because this is how I feel. You're taking the instilled morals your grandparents gave you, and you're going, okay, here's what I can use that'll help me be a better person. Also, that is a stupid fucking moral that is not, it's super outdated. I don't need to deal with this one tiny little thing. I can evolve how life is looked at and make the change for the better. I think that's very important, that our whole generation looks at life like that. We don't have to be tied down to believing every moral we've ever been taught is the only way things can be. You have to be able to look outside the box, see a situation, and go, oh, that's fucked up. I'm not cool with that, you know? So you're being raised in Delphi. Which school? You're in Lafayette School? You're in Delphi School? Okay. Both parents lived in Delphi?
No, my mom eventually so like around the age of 3 or 4, I believe.
Okay.
She moved to Lafayette.
Okay.
And so I would visit Lafayette on the weekends.
Awesome. So you had your Lafayette friends at some point?
Eventually. Later on.
Okay,
Much later on.
So early childhood, you have brothers, right? Only brothers?
I have 3 brothers.
No sisters?
No sisters.
Were they all with your dad, or were you guys kind of split?
So my mom, she's on her 4th marriage right now.
Okay.
No kids with this current one.
No judgment.
I know, I get it. But no, so she had my two, it's weird to say, oldest brothers.
Okay. They're still younger.
They're younger than me, but they're my 2 oldest brothers with her 2nd husband, and then my 3rd brother with her 3rd husband.
Okay.
And there's a 13-year difference between me and my youngest brother.
And there's a 13-year difference between me and my
parallels,
youngest sister. It's weird.
Parallels all over the place with us, man.
It is ridiculous. It's also ridiculous that you have a Killswitch Engage tattoo, and they're like one of my favorite bands. We could literally, there's other podcasts
we can geek
we're
out.
going to do that. But.
We can geek out about music all day. You know that. We have.
So you are spending a lot of time between your 2 families, going back and forth. Where does the music bug hit you? Like, what's the first? Because listen, again, child of divorce, I understand. Music affects you greatly.
It does.
And when my parents were getting divorced when I was 8, the only time in either of their lives, well, I guess my mom still kind of does, but for the most part, it was the only time in my dad's life he heavily listened to country. So their divorce and country music are like symbiotic to me.
Yeah.
I can't listen to country music because it just makes me feel gross, like during that time in my life. It really does. Like it's very bizarre. So what was the music that like encapsulated you early on?
You know, it's so weird because everybody who's like most people who's super into music usually has some sort of family influence on that.
Totally.
And I don't
at all.
It turns out, okay, I found out later that my dad's oldest brother, he played bass like a long ass time ago with a bunch of people from Delphi. Troy Seeley, Iced Earth.
That's awesome.
Who I saw recently.
How was that?
It was very excellent.
Excellent.
Very different from what I expected. Anyway, so yeah, I don't have any musical influence coming from my family. I was too young for my friends to really be into music, so like I just kind of stumbled upon it, honestly, because everybody has those phases where you start out, you listen to what your parents listen to, then you listen to what your friends listen to, and then you start venturing out and discovering for yourself. So I don't know. I obviously found, I think the first band I really got into was Smash Mouth.
Okay.
So we had Smash Mouth. Astro Lounge came out.
Totally.
And so that year for Christmas, my aunt got me Fushu Mang.
Okay.
So not thinking, oh, it's Smash Mouth. No, that CD says fuck in it.
A lot.
And it's I like that album nowadays because it's the closest thing to punk that Smash Mouth ever was.
Yeah.
And it's just a really cool album because it's so much different from the mainstream Smash Mouth.
They were edgy.
And the songs were but I love Astro Lounge too. So moving forward from Astro Lounge, I went to Creed.
Okay.
And
I also listened to Creed in my earlier days. Cammy trying to join us for the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Get out of here, Cammy.
But so Creed, other than that, it was just the radio. So I would hear like Nickelback and Linkin Park, and from Creed, I went to Good Charlotte and Linkin Park.
Okay.
In terms of like actually having the CDs and like jamming them out all the time, and from Good Charlotte, I went to Disturbed.
Wow, big transition there.
But within a year, sometime within that year, I got introduced to Disturbed, System of a Down, and Papa Roach, all at once.
Not bad.
It was on a mixed CD.
Oh, okay.
And my friend, my current roommate Andy, he was listening to it, and he listened to Chop Suey, Aerials, and Last Resort, and I was just upset. I was like, "Holy shit, these songs are awesome!"
Yeah.
I was like, "What?" And then next thing, like a week or two later, he's borrowing The Sickness, and I'm just sitting here like, "Oh!" And we played Monster Hunter, which the Monster Hunter World Beta is starting today, and I am missing it until tomorrow.
For our listeners, that's last Saturday.
Yes.
Time travel.
So moving forward, and also connecting with this date today, I moved to Pantera. And today is the 13-year anniversary
Yesterday. It was the 8th.
Oh, yes, it is the 9th.
Because it was
Oops.
strange. It's technically the same time frame.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what you're within a day. It's not like you're fucking a month off or
Yeah,
something.
so December 8th is the anniversary of Dimebag's death, which is also the anniversary of John Lennon's death.
Super crazy. Both very talented, taken way too early.
Yes.
Senselessly crazed fans. I will never forget where I was when I learned that Dimebag died. I was in school, 2004.
I didn't even know Pantera.
I not only knew Pantera, I was actually a huge Damage Plan fan at that time. Like I was jamming Damage Plan constantly, and because As I Am is one of my favorite songs, or not As I Am, Save Me.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
called
Save Me.
It's not As
Awesome
I Am.
song.
As I Am is the Dream Theater song. Yeah.
Awesome song. Newfound Power is an awesome CD.
Yes. So I remember being in school, and Brando came up to me, and he's like, "Dude, some people got shot at the Damage Plan concert last night. I don't know what's going on." And I was like, and I literally looked at him, and the first words out of my mouth is, "I hope it wasn't fucking Dime or Vinny." That's literally the first thing I said to him. And like I think an hour later in English class, they said it was Dimebag, and I was just like, "No."
Yeah.
Of all the fucking things to happen, you know.
You know, it's so weird you saying this because like I was in 8th grade.
Okay, yeah, totally.
At the time, and I had no idea who Pantera was. I hadn't gotten into metal yet, not that I know of, at least. Not that I can remember. I think at that time it would have been Disturbed at the most. But so I sometimes forget that you and Brandon are older than me.
A little older, yeah.
Like I think you guys are like 5-6 years older than me.
No, 3. I'm 30. You're 27.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair.
Math. I'm not 32.
Math.
Brando is 31 though, so he is 4 years technically.
Okay. So yeah, I always forget that you guys are older than me. So like, when you're sitting there thinking, like, God damn, you guys were young into Pantera, but you weren't.
Well, I mean, a little bit. I was, let's see, in 2004. That would have been my sophomore year of high school.
Which is when I started going
it would
deep
have been
into
my
metal.
junior year of high school. 2004 was my junior year.
Okay, I gotta say, junior year was probably when I started going deep into metal, because that's when I got into like Lamb of God, Children of Bodom.
Yeah.
Started getting into that heavy shit.
So okay, let's just jump right into that. You're starting to you just fast tracked us. We're gonna skip some of your angsty teenage years, I guess.
Didn't have any, honestly.
Really? Well, that's good. Pretty basic middle of your life era, you know?
Honestly, I've had very little struggle in my life.
Well, that's really good, actually. I mean, it's a great thing to. I mean, everybody struggles with something.
Yeah, any struggle I have had has just been purely mental, just going through something that I needed to grow from, you know.
Totally, and see, that's an important look. See, you're doing the thing without me even asking. I was going to say it later in the episode, but I think we can just talk about it now. If there was any advice you can give people to get through struggles, because I do know, hearing you talk on Podcastrophe, being your friend, that you do struggle with stuff sometimes, and it gets you, and it puts you in just like a fugue state.
Yeah,
where everything, like time almost stops, and I know the walls cave in on you. Your brain is your worst enemy.
Oh, it can be, yeah, for sure.
So what do you do to get through all of that? Like, what do
I do? Honestly, I've always been a huge proponent for strength of the mind.
Okay.
Like if I were to give anybody advice, is that you are in control.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case. Some people have more severe things that like control them. Like depression ain't no shit. And I mean,
well said. I know that's like
depression and anxiety ain't no shit. And it's I mean, not that I've had anything that I couldn't handle, but like for myself, like I said, my only advice is like you are in control. Like your brain, all that stuff, it's just in your head.
Yeah, and you just have to learn how to.
And that could go for people with the more severe stuff. I mean, to an extent, because obviously there's some chemicals going, there's some misfires going, and you know they're gonna need that help. They're gonna need that extra push that medication can give them, but the medication can only do so much.
Well, and I think we're in an era where medication can become like people's worst enemies. You start to look at these older folks, like I think about my dad, and he takes medicine to not hurt, and then he takes medicine to counteract the medicine that he's
which
taking.
you talked about that recently.
You know, and it's just like, I don't want that to be the future of this world. I feel like there are better, safer options, and I hope that the literal opioid pandemic that's hitting this country, like, finds a way to stop. But I feel like we're at the tip of the iceberg right now. Like, this is just starting. You know, they think it's bad now. Like, it's only just getting here. As soon as you make it known that there's a problem, the problem only gets worse before it gets better. So back to the music though. I don't want to skip on that, and we'll keep going kind of back and forth with all this stuff. So with the music, you find some heavier stuff. You're talking about Lamb of God, Bodum, so on. Does that inspire you to pick up the guitar? Is that where it comes from? Is there,
kind of. So Pantera is the main reason I picked up guitar, particularly the song Floods.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. So Pantera Floods, mostly the outro, and I love the solo, but I love the outro, and so I wanted to pick that up. At the time, I had actually started hanging out with people that were playing instruments. Like I had my friend Rebecca she went to Rossville, and so she played guitar. She mostly played like Def Leppard, Beatles, Blink-182, stuff like that. And then I had my friend Kyle, who
we were just talking about him yesterday.
Kyle,
guitar player turned drummer.
No,
different.
Way
Gorgasm's drummer.
No, that not him.
Okay,
not Kyle Christman. No, this is Kyle Brown.
Okay,
who funny connection to the network. I met Michael Norris through him.
Oh, cool. So you and Mike know each other through this guy.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome.
Yeah, back when he was known as Little Mike.
Little Mike.
Because there was a big Mike, so they needed a Little Mike.
But he's kind of tall and kind of big, though.
But Big Mike is just big.
He's just big. He's just a big old
big
boy.
Guy.
All right, I got you.
So, and he played guitar, and he played the heavier side of things, like the Pantera.
Gotcha.
He's the guy who got me really heavy into Pantera. I was already into Mudvayne, so he didn't really get me into that, but he got me into Pantera.
That first Mudvayne album, LD50.
I'm a big fan of End of All Things.
End of All Things is another great album, too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh. Those
first three albums were just fantastic.
Yes, absolutely agree. That's something we've not really dished on, is my love for Mudvayne.
No, we haven't.
Big, huge fan. Death Blooms is probably my favorite song of theirs all time. Like there's a lot of great stuff on End of All Things to Come, and what's that third album? I can picture the cover.
Lost and Found,
because it's the kid going through the storm. They had like Fallen to Sleep was on there, and that song they used for one of the Saw soundtracks was on there.
Yeah. Can you guess my? Okay, I do this to you every time whenever we found a band.
And you pick fucking obscure ass songs
because you would have never guessed that Pantera song was Yesterday Don't Mean Shit.
You know what I think? I think World So Cold by Mudvayne is your favorite song.
I believe that might be my second favorite song. So second close. Or third.
Okay, so what's the first?
You're not going to try to guess? One more guess.
Man. Is it the same album?
No.
Okay, god damn it. I feel like I need the track listings. I haven't listened to these albums in a hot minute.
Unfortunately, I can remember shit like that, like no problem. I have awesome recall when it comes to songs.
I can't think of the name of the song. It's off the first album, right?
Keep going.
Right, it's on the first album, and it's like I can. I don't do this.
I can tell you my favorite songs off the first album. Obviously, Dig.
Well, yeah. Dig.
What's that? You already said it. Death Blooms. Nothing to Gain.
Nothing to Gain is an awesome
About
song.
Ed Gain.
Yeah. Mudvayne band. They're from Peoria, Illinois.
Yep.
And I feel like somebody I know's like grandma babysat them. Legit. Like I feel like that's like a real thing. Somebody in my past definitely like babysat Greg and Chad that's what I was at least told. Happy? Is that your jam?
No. That's not even on.
No, that's
LD50.
that's on the third one.
Happy's fucking good though.
Yeah, it is. So LD50 came out in 2000.
Yes.
Okay. So that's interesting. That's pretty loud, by the way. Let's see here. We're gonna look at. Man, I look at all these songs. IPF, Internal Primates Forever.
That's an all right one. No, okay. So you've had your
I've had my
guess.
chances.
All right, so it wasn't off of LD50.
Jerk.
And you've already actually kind of mentioned it. It was the song that was on the Saw soundtrack.
Oh,
Forget to Remember.
Forget to Remember.
My favorite song.
And see, I forgot Forget to Remember.
That was my favorite song overall for the longest time because I love the lyrics. I love the idea behind it. I love the dichotomy in Forget and Remember. I like songs that do that. I like anything that has an awesome dichotomy like that.
Absolutely. Mudvayne is phenomenal. It's weird. And that's a weird tying thing together, too, because parts of Mudvayne join parts of Pantera to form Hell Yeah.
Unfortunately.
You know what? I liked the first...
Fortunately, unfortunately.
I liked the first Hell Yeah album.
The first one was good. Second, third, no. Fourth, Blood for Blood. That was a good CD. That was
I haven't heard CD. Blood for Blood yet.
The title track's not that great.
Okay. Well.
I think the title track is actually Sangre por Sangre.
Okay.
Blood for Blood.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had a song on there called Moth.
Okay.
Awesome fucking song.
Okay, is it like a little bit of return to form, a little heavier? I feel like
that CD was heavier.
I called it Mudvayne. I feel like Hell Yeah started off as like, we're kind of Pantera, we're kind of Mudvayne, and we're kind of country. And then they forgot the first two things I said and were just kind of country.
Yeah,
and
they were Stampede was totally really like a country, like an outlaw fucking country.
I know. I bought it and I didn't. I listened to it once and I was just like, why did I buy this? I feel so bummed.
I like the singles off of it, but the CD.
Even still, my thing is when I buy a CD, if I'm going to buy an album, you have 4 songs. If you can give me with 4 songs, I will buy it. But I learned lessons leading up to that make me not buy CDs on I like that band. Like I bought Taproot, their first album.
Yeah. 1
song. I shouldn't have bought the album. Just listen to Poem once in a while. It's on YouTube. You can find it.
Yeah.
That's all they had, man. I'm not trying to be shitty, but I'm just keeping it real. So let's get back into you and what's going on. When do you pick up your first guitar? How does that all happen? Obviously, you're watching your friends play.
So my mom, she was dating / living with. We were living with this guy named Dave.
Okay.
And
What's up, Dave?
He was he was a very well-off person. He owned his own realty company.
Okay.
Selling farm realty, so tons of money in that.
Gotcha.
And he was also a singer-songwriter. Along the lines of like John Mellencamp, stuff like that.
I gotcha.
And so he had acoustics. He had acoustics laying around. He had a couple electric guitars laying around. He had a Digitech RP 150, I think.
Ooh,
it was
pedal.
like the bigger one.
Yeah.
And so right around that time, like when we were living with him, or she was living with him, I was in Delphi, but I'd go there on the weekends and hang out with my friend Kyle and watch him play. So then I'd be like, well, there's a guitar here. And at the time, like I didn't know what the hell. I didn't know string gauges. I didn't know tunings. I just knew there's strings. You plug it into an amp and you strum, and you put your fingers places. And yeah.
Okay, so what did you do?
So I plugged it into his amp. And
Okay.
I plugged it into the pedal, and I just strummed and just messed around on like the Inner Sandman fucking
Okay.
the setting on that.
So you kind of just like, you didn't really even know how to make
No.
it. You were just making noise.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Strumming patterns.
Okay. So what? I know I know it's like everybody's first song, and of course, "Smoke on the Water" was the first thing I learned on guitar. I don't know if that was your first song, but what was the first thing you like could play, and you were like, huh, "I just played that fucking song."
Like,
Yes.
just out of the blue, like I'm
Yeah.
just messing around and
just like started to figure it out. Yes.
without looking at a tab or anything, just messing around and being like, oh, that sounds like this.
Mm-hmm.
Wake Me Up When September Ends.
Awesome. That's pretty easy. A couple doom, 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 doom.
Yeah.
Doom. Yeah.
And then I looked up
Totally.
a tab and I wasn't far off.
Nice. So you kind of understood tabs right out the gate? You could look
Yeah,
at them and-
yeah.
Is that because of your friends?
No, I think I had heard about tabs, but like it just clicked with me, the number and where it's at. Like, I get it. Is that I don't understand music. I don't understand notes. I understand tablature.
Which is like really basic understanding of music.
Mm-hmm.
Because guitars are so convoluted.
Yeah. Later that year, so December of my junior year, I got my first guitar.
Okay, what was it?
Actually, maybe it was my senior year. I think it may have been December of my senior year.
Okay.
I convinced my mom, because I since I was obsessed with Dimebag, I would always just search Razorbacks, Dimebag, stuff like that on eBay, see what could come up.
Yeah.
And so I was very picky about which guitar like I wanted. I didn't want the fucking explosion guitar. I didn't want the shards guitar. I wanted the straight black with the silver lining. It looked like a razor. It looked sharp.
You still have that guitar.
Yes, I do.
It's funny that the two you mentioned you didn't want
You had.
are the two that I had. What the fuck? Dick
No,
move.
I found it on eBay.
Okay.
I found it on eBay. It was in Atlanta, Georgia. For I think the bidding started at it was like super low, but I was like, Mom, I want a guitar. This is my dream guitar right here, and if I'm gonna get any, like, it's super low, can I bid? And would you help me get this? She goes, all right, but you're not going over 400. Like, if it goes past 400, you can't. I'm not doing it. So, excuse me.
Nice. Nice. Added to
So
the
I get.
first burp on the Voice of Survival,
All right.
I think.
I've been doing
10
that a lot on
episodes.
mine. If you listen to episode 15 of Podcastrophe, like, it literally starts with a burp because I did not give a shit that day.
Podcastrophe?
Patty, oh gosh.
Yeah.
Whoa. But so I start bidding on it.
Okay.
It starts getting up there, and I'm in school first hour Monday morning, and it's getting up there, and I'm like, this is a class that like we didn't do shit in. This is how I know it was my senior year, because I remember
have
having
shit
that
all
class.
to do.
So I'm sitting there bidding. It gets up to 400, and I'm like, I'm gonna do it 450. I was like, I'll just pay her the difference. I have a job.
Okay.
And so that's what it ended up. I ended up winning it.
Barely. Just right
Barely.
on the lineup.
And then I had to pay like another 50 or so bucks for shipping. But yeah, so I got it. It finally came like 2 months later. There were some shipping issues with the guy. When I got it, he left the whammy bar on inside the case. So the floating Floyd Rose was all fucked.
God, and the neck was probably partially warped. I mean, having all that tension down, that's, I mean, truss
Well,
rods are not meant to...
the Floyd was like crooked and offset. It was like almost falling out.
Oh, no.
So I had to have somebody fix that up.
Well, and those are those fucking licensed Floyd Roses.
Yes.
I hate
It
those
was a legit Floyd Rose. And
Oh, yours was a legit Floyd. It wasn't licensed.
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Because the...
I'll have to look at it when I get home, but I'm pretty sure it's the legit.
Sick. Because I know some of the models came with the originals, and then some of them came with the licensed, and the licensed were copied models that Dean made for certain guitars. But I think at some point they lost the rights to make copies, and they had to switch to the actual original Floyd Roses.
So, to the listeners out there, if you've never played guitar and plan on playing guitar, getting a guitar, make sure, and this is very vital, make sure your very first guitar is either just a complete piece of shit or just doesn't have a Floyd Rose floating bridge, because that is a nightmare for a beginner. I still don't understand Floyd Roses, and I'm 10 years in.
I could help you.
I don't want to know.
Essentially, it's difficult because what you have to do is you have to open up the locking nut on the top. You set all of your strings to about... Well, what you do is you want to try to make all of your lower tuning pegs all level before you do anything. And then what you do is you tune it about a half step off, lock it, it'll bring it up just a pinch, and then you fine tune them on the low.
Okay.
And just like barely lock them in. The only problem is, whammy, fucking out of tune. Whammy, it's super out of tune. So, whammy bars are fun, but...
Well, that's what the Floyd Rose is for. That's what the locking is for.
But those are still inconsistent. I mean,
They can be, yeah.
I know I had trouble with my Razorbacks and those, but of course, like I said, they were licensed Floyd Roses, so that probably had an effect on it. Every time I do one whammy, it'd be totally out of tune, just fucked. But anyways, so you're playing your Floyd Rose, not your Floyd Rose, your Razorback guitar.
Yeah.
What are you playing on this?
I think the first songs I attempted, first off, Broken by Seether. Didn't get very far with that. Next off, I think, was Forget to Remember. Definitely didn't get far with that. I'm a lot better at that now. Still can't get it. I can get the main riff. I just, once it goes clean, I can't do that. I just haven't got the ability there yet. But then Floods, the outro.
Awesome.
Hysteria by Def Leppard.
Awesome.
Omerta, Lamb of God.
Awesome.
That was one of the first ones I really picked up.
Omerta has one of the best intros of music in history. That intro speech that Randy gives.
Fun fact about Omerta. The first time I stepped on stage outside of my first band, so about 2 years after my last performance with them, it was the very first Doom Room show.
Really?
Very first Doom Room show. Nick's band Weed Bee played Omerta.
Whoa.
And I sang it with them.
That's awesome.
Joanna, Mike's wife, she took a bunch of pictures of that set.
Cool.
And there's a bunch of pictures of me and Nick and the old band fucking playing. Great pictures. I have a few of them.
Colby was still in the band at that time?
No, Colby wasn't in there yet.
He wasn't even in the band yet.
No.
Wow, that's early.
No.
Early Weed Bee.
Yeah.
How are you like... I feel like you are...
I don't even think there was a bass player.
You're
at that
like
point.
always the bridesmaid, never the bride in bands. Like all these bands use you for stuff. I know that you've done a lot of work recently with Only Human.
Yeah.
So
that's just me like saying, hey, I want to do this with you guys.
like, please let that happen.
Yeah, basically.
So let's get back to it. You are playing. You're talking about Omerta, Doom Room. Okay, I guess we need to fill that gap a little bit.
Oh, there's many gaps.
I don't know how, like, you were like 17, 18 when you got your first guitar.
Yeah, 18.
When do you meet Doom Room Nick? How does that all happen? I feel like,
oh boy,
your first band is in between that too?
17. I was 18, so that's 2008.
Okay.
Flash forward, my first girlfriend outside of high school dumps me, and I had already been approached. To sing for a band.
Oh, cool.
Cody Clem, longtime friend from going to see Narrow House and stuff at the Skylight Cafe in Lafayette, So he's like, hey, my band needs a vocalist. I think you should try it out. And I was like, dude, I got school, I got work, I have a girlfriend. I don't have time for it. I've never done anything like that. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. So girlfriend breaks up with me a couple months later, and I'd already started seeing somebody else, but like, so they're like, hey, so that spot's still open. I'm like, all right, when can I try out? So I started practicing, and at the time, I couldn't scream at the time.
Okay.
I hadn't figured out how to scream, but I could yell.
Good enough.
Really badly. I could do high screams. I could do really high screams. So like Children of Bodom, like high screams.
Yeah, gotcha.
Hell yeah. So I go there and I try out with Holy Diver, Killswitch Engage.
Awesome. Great cover.
And Are You Dead Yet?
Awesome song.
Children of Bodom.
Okay. Fuck yes to both those songs.
I fucking killed Are You Dead Yet? Holy Diver being my favorite song at the time. I kicked ass at the screamings, but the cleans, I didn't have enough balls, and they told me that. They're like, yeah, you have awesome screams, but you don't have enough balls with your singing. I'm like, okay. So I got the job, obviously, or the spot, and we started Catacresis.
Really?
And it was a really cool band. It wasn't necessarily a great band for me, because it was a really proggy band.
That band, you sent me an invite recently to like them, I think, or you like accidentally shared... I think you might have shared something Journey into Comics like on that page. Do you remember that?
I think so.
Recently.
Yeah.
I don't remember what we were doing exactly, but I just remember because I was like, Catacresis, who's this? I thought I was like finding some new band that was interested in the network. I was going to try to get them on the shows.
Oh yeah, get us on.
Okay,
get us on. We'll figure
you guys
it out.
are still doing press all these years later. I love that. I love the spirit of that.
So I'm in that band. That's my first experience as a vocalist. And
a lot of shows, or
I think we played maybe 4 or 5 shows total.
Okay. Mostly local.
Yeah,
all local.
Okay. The last show they played, I had to work. I'd been at Subaru. I just started Subaru, so I couldn't play. It was at the Animal House in Frankfurt. Another vocalist sat in for me. I guess the guitarist broke a string and all sound issues and all. It was I never had any issues.
The end
when
of
I was
the end.
When I was whenever I played a show, no issues, no sound issues, nothing happened, nothing. I think the first show, like I was staring at a lyric sheet for like most of it. Oh, I did fuck up. The very first show, we did a cover.
Okay.
And one of Weedbee's now current guitarists, Tex.
Okay.
He had a guest spot on our first show. He had a guest spot. And we played Iron Maiden by Iron Maiden.
Awesome.
Off the album Iron Maiden, covered by Trivium. we did the Trivium cover.
Cool. That was from Shogun.
Yeah,
right? They
bonus
did that.
track.
Yep.
And
remember.
Since I wasn't familiar with the song, I got into Shogun like right at that time because we were covering that. And so like I missed my cue to come in on the verse. So I just skipped the entire verse and went into the chorus. And like I'm just standing there like just, bobbing my head, rocking out, and guitarist leans over, he's like, "Hey, did you forget the words?" No, dude, I didn't forget. I
just missed my cue.
He's just leaning over there talking to me and he can't hear me. So I'm like, "No, dude, I just missed my You forgot the words, didn't you?" You forgot the words. He can't hear me. He's just rocking out. I'm like, so I come in, finish the song out strong, kicked ass. It sucked though because I knew there was a bunch of Iron Maiden fans in the crowd. So I'm like, oh my god, why am I covering the song?
You felt like out of place. I've done that before.
But so yeah, we played. We wrote some pretty awesome songs. I had no songwriting ability. I could write lyrics like crazy, but to put them into song form, not that great. Especially with the music, like I said, they were trying to do like Between the Buried and Me, Mastodon type shit.
Okay.
Cody, the drummer, who I connected with the most, mostly because I knew him, he wanted to do heavier stuff, but the guitarist wanted to do more Mastodon stuff.
Totally.
Like crazy, jazzy, all over the place stuff. And it just wasn't hitting me in terms of like my writing style. I wanted to write more personal.
Yeah.
Fucking get
Feel
shit
what
off my
you're
chest.
doing. Yeah, exactly.
And so it was difficult for me. I couldn't find the rhythms for me to put music into it. Anyway, so I get my job at Subaru. things slowly start to, like, we lose that guitarist because he graduated school, moved out, got a job, and then I couldn't practice as much, and then we're just like, is this still a thing? No. Okay. And which really sucked because my fiance left me at that time, like around that April of that time. So I was like full on, let's do this shit, much like I was in the beginning. Like, hey, I want to join the band. Like, I'm about this. And then she left me. So I'm like, okay, let's go to the next step. I started doing the Nate Phillips thing, making shit on Facebook. I was like, let's
make shit happen.
Let's promo.
Absolutely.
I started doing like live playthroughs of my singing on songs, and it's terrible quality and it sucked. But so I was all about it. I started learning as much as I could about like screaming and the technique behind it.
Totally.
And then I just called it quits.
Man,
so,
that hurts.
And part of the reason is Cody joined Weed B.
Oh, is this okay? So
this is founding of Weed B. Okay, he replaced the original drummer.
So that happens. You're still friends with Cody.
Mm-hmm.
You meet Nick.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Initial meeting of Nick. They came up to one of their guitarists needed a guitar, and so that was like, yeah, you can borrow my ESP. They borrowed that. They came up to my apartment, hung out for a bit. Didn't really talk to Nick.
Really?
Next thing, they're playing their second show, which was at the Hilltop Fortress on the 4th of July.
Awesome.
And so I hung out with them mostly still, just talking to only Cody. I didn't know the rest of them. Also, that was the day I met my current tattoo artist. She was really good friends with them. And then I just started going to the mall, and I noticed Nick worked at a Gold Pros booth.
What's that?
It's just this booth that buys and sells gold.
Really?
Or I don't think they sold gold, but they
buy gold,
they bought
yeah.
jewelry off of you. And I would just sit and hang out with him and talk to him about music and shit. I got him into Parkway Drive. I got a lot of people into Parkway Drive.
That's kind of your MO.
And I would literally just, because I would go to the mall just to go to Applebee's and get a cheeseburger, and then that was my meal before work. And I was on night shift at Subaru, and this is before I was friends with. I was only friends with Rob at this point from Subaru.
Silent Rob.
In terms of this group.
Okay.
And so I would just go there and hang out with Nick for a couple hours before work, and then just, yeah. And then that budded the Nick and Dick relationship, the friendship.
I love it. Yeah.
And there was a minute for a while that him and I weren't very close because he started blowing up in every aspect. Like they got the Doom Room because the Hilltop closed down. So that's when we started the Doom Room, and it was kind of my fault because they needed a bass player. They lost a bass player, so I started being like, hey, I'm gonna learn bass, and I can fill in if you want. And just and I would
wanted to do it
once
so
again.
bad.
It was just like me trying to interject myself.
Always
and being
the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah, and I was always throwing ideas out there for his band. Hey, you should do this. Hey, we should do this at the Doom Room. Just so. And I kind of noticed they were starting to treat me differently, and I started I took a step back and looked at what I was doing. I've always been really good at like being able to take a step back and be like, is this me?
Self-evaluation.
Yeah.
Good.
I've always been good about that.
Okay.
And so I noticed that. I sent them a big, long apology. I sent both him and Cody a big, long apology, being like, hey, guys, I noticed that there's been this shift in mood towards me, and I feel like it's my fault, and, I think it's because of this and this and this. And they're like, yeah, you pretty much hit it right on the head.
So essentially, you wanted to be a part of it, obviously.
Yeah.
And you were trying to, without so much as saying, let me be a part of this, you were going, here's all these ideas I have. And you almost overloaded them to where they were like, look, like, we get it. You have ideas, but we have ideas.
Yeah, and this is our band.
And this is our band, and this is what we want to do. So that's rough for you because, again, you're watching your friends go and do these other things.
Yeah.
You started another band shortly after that?
Yeah, The Fallen Mind.
And this is where I know you from. And not that I know you from The Fallen Mind. I think I should. But when I met you, that was one of the things you were heavily in. You were still playing music on the regular. Like I said earlier in the episode, you had come to Mike and Joanna's house. There was a little, I think we jammed. I don't know if you brought your guitar.
I brought my bass that I bought off of Rob.
Yeah, and we were just like kind of all dicking around on it.
I brought that because Nick Torres, he said he had played bass before, so I was like, hey, just here's my Rocksmith, here's the bass, you can get back into it. Like, I think that'd be really cool for you.
Yeah.
And he never did, of course.
Wow,
but
that makes sense.
I no longer have that bass.
Oh.
However, it is still in the family.
Oh?
I sold it to Nick.
Oh, that's
Maxon.
awesome. So he uses it for Doom Room shows.
Who knows? He has it.
He has it for
I was like,
whatever.
what do you use this? He's like, I don't know. I like having instruments around. He has my 7-string, and he said he wants to buy it, but he has it. I've yet to receive money, but that's okay. I know where to find him.
He's not too hard to find.
No,
I think he's got a show on this network, possibly.
I think he does too. What is it? Podcastrophe? No, that's
yours.
mine,
Yeah.
and he's on it.
Dudes with no. Brews
Babe?
with
Beers with babes?
Beers with babes.
No, it's brews. It's brews with dudes,
fellas.
fellas.
I want to use that now. Brews with fellas. Change the whole show. Maybe that'll be my great mischievous.
What's something that starts with C? Like a beer that starts with C.
Coors.
Oh no, champagne with chaps.
Champagne with chaps. That's great.
Something stupid like that.
That's actually funny. That's like a dapper podcast where they're all pretentious. I feel like that show, just a tangent, you're a part of that show, so we should talk about that for a minute. The Brews with Dude show is very well done because you guys know what it is, you know what you're doing, and also you're not pretentious about it. When I listen to the shows, I'm never like, fuck these fucking beer snobs, these craft beer snobs. You know, there are so many dudes in the craft beer game that are total douchebags. They're the worst kind of people.
I think what helps with that is the fact that we're a bunch of metalheads, and metalheads,
yes,
you either, once again, there's the snobby ones, they're the elitist, but being metalheads, and this is why I love being in the group of friends that I have, is because I'm a metalhead, they're metalheads. I love the sense of humor that metalheads have. It's just so real, and you just don't get any bullshit for the most part.
It's very cutthroat and honest.
Yeah, and
people are gonna say what they mean.
Metalheads are like the funniest dudes I've ever met.
Also true,
in
kinda.
general.
Mostly. Typically. I feel like because it's like they live their lives with such dark music on them, and it's a way for them to escape that, so they have like, they can actually...
need the music's their escape from life, and the humor's the escape from the music.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Interesting
Like,
way to look at that.
We have to be more cheerful because his music is so doom and gloomy. You know?
Anyway, back to my story with Nick.
Please, yes.
So, fast forward a little bit, I moved in with him. I moved in and lived at the Doom Room for a very short time, and at first it was great because I was still on day shift, and then I got hired full-time. I went straight to night shift, couldn't go to any of the shows because I worked every other Saturday. I slept most of the day, didn't get home till 2, 3 in the morning.
It was like being there but not actually being there.
Yeah, and so like the days that I would wake up and at a decent time, like noon, I would just hang out upstairs in my room or on my computer. I kind of like isolated myself from everybody, which is, it just happened. Being on night shift, waking up, you just don't want to deal with anything.
You become a vampire.
Yeah.
I mean, really, working the late-ass shifts can fuck you up for real.
Mm-hmm.
I know, worked at the Horseshoe. You guys have heard those stories, but like the transition of being a person who wakes up at a decent, normal hour, lives their day-to-day, goes to bed after the sun is down, and lives their life, is an amazing departure from I'm sleeping when the sun is up. Mm-hmm. The sun is up, and I'm forcing myself to go to bed. And it can mess your psyche up, too. That's another thing. You're in your head there. You're alone. You're at this place where you want to be. You are, without wanting to be, left out of activities because you're working. Mm-hmm. And you're just kind of in a not-so-great situation. Do you decide, I need to get myself away from here so I can be a part of this again? And maybe make something of this? And then, of course, you had a couple things to happen. We're going to talk about this because this is where everything starts to transition for you musically, I know. you leaving the Doom Room, the next place you went was you and Nick's apartment.
No, next place was my dad's.
That's right. You went back to your dad's for a time.
I was there for about 6 months. No, so back to the Doom Room. So I was living there, and I noticed a shift once again in Nick and him towards me, his demeanor towards me, and it wasn't. And I don't know if it was just like we're friends and we're roommates, and that just naturally happens. This animosity just naturally happens. There wasn't any animosity, just for the record, but
there's a tension when you're living with a person.
There was some tension for sure, and I didn't understand it because like I never used dishes. All my stuff was upstairs. Like I always paid rent, and I literally caused no issues.
Well, here's the thing. I'll tell you a secret as a 30-year-old who's experienced it just a short time longer than you have. No matter what, I don't care how nice the person is. I don't care how perfect everything seems. Living with another person, you find all the things you don't like about them without meaning to. Because it's in the little things, and the little things over and over and over and over again.
I just think my view on it, and I haven't talked to Nick about this. Maybe if he listens to this, he can give me some insight. But I think what happened was, so like I said, I was isolating myself. I wasn't wanting to hang out, and I felt like maybe he felt kind of put off by that. And
felt like you were distancing yourself from him, even though it wasn't personal.
Yeah, and it was just like he's like, oh, he doesn't want to hang out, or like he never comes down and hangs out. Like he's always upstairs. I'm like, yeah.
I don't mean to.
And he's told me this before. He's like, I'll never kick anybody out of here. Like at a show, he has, but he's like, I'll never kick anybody out, but I will make you feel extremely unwelcome until you want to leave.
Yeah.
And that's not saying anything bad against Nick. Like, but
that's a smart way to play it,
definitely
too.
get that feeling from him. Some like I as soon as he told me that, I was like, yeah, I can see that.
You're just
not towards me, but like I've seen it towards other people.
You're like, oh, it makes sense now. I understand.
He has this way of just having this super snide tone of like, get the fuck out of here. I don't want to be around you, without actually saying it.
Hashtag
while still just
go.
conversing with you.
Oh yeah. And then it just terrible awkwardness. I totally understand that. So you leave the Doom Room. You go back with your dad for 6 months. This is about the time I meet you.
Yeah, it was in that time
frame. Back to the start of the episode 40. I meet you there. 50. We do the thing. We kind of built this thing here. You tease Podcastrophe.
Yes.
And we're going to shift this whole thing on its head because now you're still in music.
Yes.
But you've teased this concept. And you almost had was it like a little over a year to stew on this idea where you just, or was it almost 2 years? Was it 2014 to 17? Because
this was 15.
It was 15 to 17.
15 to 17. Okay. So Nick and I came up with Podcastrophe.
Brandon named it.
Brandon named Podcastrophe. Nick Torres and I came up with, or mostly Nick Torres came up with the idea. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. I don't really want to be. I'll be part of it, but I don't want to put forth the effort of
making a podcast. It's hard.
Creatively thinking this out, thinking of all the ideas that we're gonna do. I'll just be there. You come up with stuff, and we'll talk about it. Like I'm great at talking. I suck at coming up with ideas.
Except for when it's not your band.
Except for when it has nothing to do with something I'm doing. I'm a great support character.
I wonder if that says something about your actual character that like almost informs me to believe you could have great ideas for yourself.
Yeah.
But maybe you don't believe in them as much, and I'm bringing that back to the podcasting thing because while you and Nick teased this concept, it sits for 2 years.
Yeah, I literally went out and bought this mic that I'm using for it.
Awesome mic.
On top of it's great for screaming vocals.
Yeah.
So I got this. I planned on getting a bigger interface, which is what I used for the mobile episodes of Podcastrophe.
Yeah, I like that interface.
I got all this stuff and.
I'm trying to do a selfie while you're talking.
So I was like, sorry, I can't talk and take a picture at the same time.
Oh my god, I just learned something else about you.
Yeah.
Your superpowers are stifled by a camera.
I know, I love getting pictures taken of me.
Noted.
So, like, we get settled into our house and we're like, we'll wait. We'll still stew on this idea and we're just going to get settled into the house, get, settled into a routine, And then months go by. I think a couple months after moving into that house, I get on a day shift.
Okay.
And then like more months go by, and I literally just out of the blue thought of it. I'm like, hey, are we still doing that podcast? And he's like, nah, dude.
Just no.
Okay. Yeah. At that time, I was like, man. And I think, okay, so a couple days before that, I had been stewing on it. I'm like, man, I really don't want to do this, but I don't know if he still does.
Okay.
But I don't want to do it anymore. So I finally just asked him. He's like, nah, dude. And I'm like, that was a huge relief for me. Because I had also, by the time I asked that, I was in a band. I was in a new band.
Yeah.
Drench.
For a short time, that happens. It's weird. I have a history with Drench.
Yeah.
Lance, he's in Drench.
Lance
Rasmussen or
Rasmussen.
Thank you. We did one show with them. My old band Draxus did in like
Really?
2009 or 2010.
Wow.
Yeah, in Hoopston, we played with Drench. I'll never forget that show. Those are good dudes. They're nice dudes.
Oh, yeah.
Easy to work with. That after that show, we never really heard from them. I think our band started to slowly dissipate, and then they, of course, changed. It was really interesting to find out you were a part of that band. I was like, what? Of all
Yeah.
the bands, for
I
you
had
to
never
be in
heard of
one?
them.
No, it was weird because I wouldn't have heard of them if we wouldn't have played with them. You know?
Yeah,
It's
I had
like-
never heard of them, but yet I saw they started talking about all these bands that they played with. I'm like, no shit, like what?
Yeah, lots.
And so I joined that band, and that was a real experience for me because the only other band, like real band I'd been in, was my first band, Catacresis, and so I went into that not knowing anything. I went into Drench thinking I was hot shit.
And you still knew nothing.
So I quickly found out, one, I need to work on my singing. Two, I need to work on my timing. I have no sense of timing.
Okay.
Still don't.
Okay.
Not as bad, at least. And so months go by, and then I just started discovering, like, shit, I don't have anything to write about. Like, I always took the negativity and I wrote about that and I expressed it. And I wrote, although the first real song and only full song I wrote for them was called "Choose to Exist," and I wrote that not about me. It was more of like a social commentary.
Okay.
I think the opening line is "Choose to exist amongst the herd of confused sheep, their minds joined as one in idiosyncrasy." Like basically following the herd. This yeah.
Okay, totally.
This concept of everybody's just going with the flow, doing what other people do, and not thinking for themselves. And then the chorus was, "I am not here just to breathe. My will extends beyond my means." Can't remember past that, but
okay.
No, it was a social commentary, which is I've never written a song like that. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about my feelings towards something. It was just
You weren't expressing something internal.
yeah.
You were
I was trying to comment on the world I see, and that's just what that song made me feel. So, so that was like the last great thing I did for that band. And then months go by, I can't come up with anything. I can't come up with melodies. I'd come up with lyrics, but I couldn't come up with melodies. And then they started writing stuff, and then I felt bad because they were doing my job and stress, and they're like, "Hey, you got this done. Hey, you got this done." And a lot of it was just me outside of work, just procrastinating. It was me outside of the band, just procrastinating, writing, not doing what I was supposed to be doing. And
it was lack of inspiration.
Yeah,
it
lack of
wasn't
inspiration.
lack of motivation. You wanted to be doing something, but there was
Yeah.
nothing to drive the train towards. I understand that writing stuff about what is happening internally can really help you to heal from that, and also is a good way to re-express those things that you've gone through. When you don't have that passion because things are going well, mostly, we'll put quotations on well, you almost think that that there's something wrong with you that you can't write. Like,
oh, it was stressing me the hell out. One, because there was I knew they hadn't played a show in over a year.
oh damn.
So November approaches. That was like the 1 year mark, and we were nowhere near. We started revisiting the idea of playing the old me singing the old songs. I couldn't get the timing down for them. I was starting to, but I was blowing my voice out on a lot of it because their original singer, what's his fucking name right now? Their original singer, John Beard. I made some comments about him in the solo cast, which they're not too happy about him, from what I understand.
Oh,
they're not too happy about that performance with him.
Oh no. Oh no.
And you've heard it here first. Maybe before he has, they were already auditioning somebody new.
Whoa. That's breaking news here on the Voice of Survival.
Yeah, they're not going to listen to this.
Oh,
they're not.
fine.
They haven't even listened to my podcast.
Oh,
so
that's fair.
It's whatever.
They're like, we're going to check what Blaine's doing now. You're like, oh shit, now they're going to listen.
So November, it's November. I'm blowing my voice out. Everybody's like, why didn't, like, you had a week to do all this. Why are you still where you were 3 months ago? Like, what? Like, and I was really green. I was. They're like, all this was mounting up, the pressure, and it was stressing me out, and it wasn't making me want to keep doing it. So, and I knew I was the issue, so I left.
So creatively speaking, you choose to step down. Is that just coincidentally about the time Brando and I are like, you need a segment on JIC? No. Is that after or
that
before?
Was well after.
It was well after.
This is November 2015.
Okay. So you're still...
Or 2016.
Okay, so we're not too far off, because I think, like, January you started doing segments for the network.
So, yeah, after Drench, I took a step back. I ordered a bunch of equipment from Sweetwater.
Love Sweetwater.
And I decided to start delving into the other side of music, the mixing and the producing side, which I had always loved recording myself. So I decided to actually start learning about that. And so I had all this gear, and I started learning all these mixing techniques. Still learning. And then sometime after that, I started doing. I asked Brand. You guys were having issues with your third host.
Yeah, Shuddy had disappeared from the show. We were just. I think Shuddy left at like 100. Technically, he left at like 94 or some shit, but he hadn't been around in a while. It was hard to get in touch with him. Brandon and I had kind of shuffled through a couple months of shows, and it wasn't that we were stale. We just needed more, because there were only... Brando and I's angles are so often similar.
Yeah.
That it's hard to have like a quote-unquote dichotomy and create a... Not a tension, but just a vibe that makes it expand how the conversation happens. Inviting you to do something. I don't remember if it was Brandon that said it to me or I said it to him. One of us was like, Blaine needs to have a segment, or we should have him come on as a third. You asked to be a third. That's right.
I did. I asked to be a third because I saw that you guys didn't have that anymore, and I really wanted to be. I had heard him talking about it. I've been listening, and I always enjoyed guesting. So I really wanted to be part of it, and more so than I already was, and I wanted to be part of something. Like always.
And I think that the conversation there was... I think this is beautiful how this all happened, because the conversation with Brandon and I were like, if Blaine's going to do it, though, we have to have him commit. And it was like, well, can we have him commit to be the third? We're not sure. We were just unsure of mentally where you were at, how things were going for you. You were just in a relationship that had ended. There were like a lot of things at play. So Brandon's like, what about the segment? We'll give him a segment. He can come up with his own thing. Sometimes he can maybe come on and do a live segment. Sometimes we'll have him bring the segment on. We'll talk about it, which was fun. It was good. It was cool because you'd send it in. We would listen. But then you start struggling with the segment.
Yeah, I'm like, what do I come up? What do I talk about?
One, you're talking by yourself, and I know how hard that is.
Yeah.
You've done that a couple times. You did it once recently on episode 13, the Lonely Dick.
I managed to get an hour out of that.
It was still great though. And then you also did all these little mini segments where you're by yourself. So you do better when you're talking with people. You can interact and converse.
I gotta say, I had so much fun doing those because I had a different intro for every single one.
You did?
I had a different title for everyone. Title for the show, not the segment got a different title every show.
Yes, it did.
And it was a lot of fun.
No.
I love my Raining Blood intro.
Yes, that was like the third
Oh my
one,
god, I had
you
so.
did. But so we were gearing up we're March now. It's at the time of February when this episode drops, the Boob Milk Ice Cream back on JIC. That was your first segment appearance. You and me and Brando are planning because LaFiCon is around the corner, and it's like, hey, March 26th, you want to do a metal cast? It's now known as the Iced Earth Cast.
Yes.
So sorry. I'm so sorry. I really am. That was just like
that thing I can't talk about because I've never listened to them.
It was just like, situationally speaking, Brando and I were just like, oh, we've never actually talked about this on a show. Here's our chance, you know?
That's fine.
It was just like,
fine.
With a guest, it wasn't fine. We should have tried to more include you. Retrospectively
I will be
speaking.
going to that Iced Earth show.
Me too. Also,
February.
yeah, we're going. It's going to be great. So moving back forward into the clock, I know it's all timey-wimey now. April comes around, LaFiCon happens. Right after LaFiCon, we are planning. July comes, it's time for 150. We want you to be a part of it.
And Metalcast 3.
And Metalcast 3. Now, you had planned Metalcast. I had nothing. I literally showed up.
Mm-hmm.
That was the most I did. I got lost behind Brando. That was that day that I was following behind Brando in his Subaru, and then he turned, and then I turned.
He got behind another Subaru that looked just like his.
It looked exactly like his. And I was like, wait a minute, he didn't have a passenger? I would have been his fucking passenger. Who's the guy in the car? And then he was like, that's not me. So I found my way. And Colby, Nick were there. There's a second, really like the third time I had really been around Nick extensively, kind of a little bit during LaFiCon and the after party that we played. But this was the first conversation. And I didn't know if they were going to be a part of 150. There had been some talk that might happen. We weren't sure. They leave. Brando and I start recording 150. You came in like mid-episode, which I love. It starts like your retrospective, and then boom, you're here. You drop the Brando drops the Podcastrophe news on me, and it like shocked me.
Yeah.
He fucked it up the first time.
Yeah, that was hilarious too, because I'm sitting there like, God, because all I could hear is through headphones. I'm just in the other room just listening in, and all I heard was what was going on through your headphones. So I hear like a bunch of mumbles, and then out of nowhere, just really
sirens.
loud. I'm like, whoa, that's not right.
So I thought he was doing a Silent Hill intro for Game Addicts. I was like, oh, Silent Hill, awesome, I love that. And then it wasn't at all the surprise that Podcastrophe was coming back. And then it was like, without that being the thing that really did it, you were like, well, I was like, are you going to join the network? I just said it like in jest. You'll hear it on episode 150. Are you going to join the network? And you're like, I don't know, I'm probably going to go my own way. And then like everything culminates. Talked about it a little bit on Podcastrophe episode 4. Brando, myself, Veronica, Sarah are talking, discuss. The decision is made. Well, the three of us are talking. I relay this to Brandon. We should focus on the network. He formally invites you. Now you're a podcaster.
Yes.
It seems like you genuinely love doing this.
I genuinely do.
So how has it been? You're 15 episodes into your show right now. Technically 16 if you count tonight's episode that's not yet recorded. By the time this comes out, it will have been. But how has it been for you helming a show 16 episodes in? I've done it. I know what it's like.
Well, I'm gonna split this into two different things. I'm gonna say my podcast and then within the network.
Okay, sure.
So within the podcast, it's been an absolute blast. I don't feel overwhelmed by it. So like I obviously want to keep going.
It's easy to sit down and talk
to
people.
And that's something I'm good at. Like, and what I love about my podcast is in the show that is my life, I have this amazing cast of characters.
Absolutely.
And I want people to know these people. I want people to know how funny and awesome the people in my life are. And so that it just brings a lot of joy that I can get that out there to the masses, no matter who, even if there's like 3 people listening or watching. I recently came into the problem of, there are certain people that only watch the live feeds and think that that's my podcast is the live feed.
And that's only 3 episodes of 15. They're missing 12 episodes.
Yeah, so I'm like, I've recently started addressing it whenever I do a live. I'm like, hey guys, there are, if you subscribe here, yeah. So, but yeah, it's just been an absolute blast because I'm taking something that I get to use my mixing knowledge that I've gained. I get to sit and use this gear that I bought.
Yeah, it has a purpose.
It has a purpose other than music, and which I'm not doing very much of. I'm actually haven't done anything with music for a while.
Well, not true, because you've
I do
written some intros.
I do the intros. That's about it.
Hey, it's a much needed thing that we need is someone who writes the intros, you know.
Yep.
We need a guitar intro. Call Dick. He'll get it down for you.
Maybe.
But
yeah, it's just been an absolute blast, and it's leading into the network thing. It's great to finally be a part of something and feel like I'm actually contributing
Very much so.
on an equal ground compared to me being in bands and not really putting forth the effort that I probably should have. And the thing about being in this network is it feels like I'm in a band because we have that camaraderie. And
We're like Slipknot if we're a band, because there's a ton of us.
Oh my god! We're like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra or Eluvati.
Okay, I'm down.
Have you heard of Eluvati?
I don't think so.
They're
I
like
know
this Scandinavian band, and they have like 19 instruments,
Whoa.
including the hurdy-gurdy.
What is a hurdy-gurdy?
Folk instrument. It's folk. It's Scandinavian black
Folk music.
melodic folk metal.
Awesome.
Folk death.
I love that.
It's really cool. It is really cool.
You're going to show me that after.
Eluvati. I think that's how you say it.
Eluvati. We'll check it out.
I'll send you a link, hopefully. It might be like 2 months from now, like the 5 out of 7 perfect score story.
Awesome that people can finally, well, only people within the network.
Did you read that yet?
Yep, I read. I knew.
You knew about it. You knew
about
about it
way before I think I talked to you, because I remember reading that and just going, "Man, this guy's clever. He always has a comeback to this dude's stupid whatever he's saying." But to continue on with podcasting, other than the having people assume that your video cast is the show, are there any other hardships or difficulties you've found within doing podcasting that have maybe changed your perception of people who do podcast? Has it evolved your appreciation for what, like, I'm not, please don't suck my dick about this, but like what Brandon and I started, we didn't intend to start, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When we did Journey into Comics and we started inviting our friends in, and then we started realizing our friends were really good on podcasts. It was just like it feels so underutilized, and there were so many times where Brandon and I, and maybe we wanted to have a guest, but we just didn't plan for it. Planning was such a difficult thing for a short while within JIC. Now everything is like, well, you see, I've got a whole fucking calendar for the next year with every move possible planned out. Oh
yeah.
God, it's crazy. But so what hardships, if any, have you kind of ran into within starting your own show?
Honestly, like, I'll start with the minor shit, which was just hauling around my laptop and interface for mobile shows. That was just a bitch.
That was before you got the Zoom, though.
Yeah, that was just... I mean, I still haul around my laptop, but I don't use it. This is the $1,600 laptop that I don't use at all.
Really?
Yeah, I bought it for the band, and because I was also writing for Drunk Octopus, so I figured it'd be cool to have that. And then it's there now if I need it, but I don't need it.
You're like, I don't.
'Cause I have an awesome desktop that I built, and I just don't need it. But hardships, honestly, just scheduling with people. Hey, can you come on? Yeah, I'll come on. Oh, hey, I can't now.
Flakes.
I've only had one flake. The others, I understand, but and like I said, it hasn't been often at all. It's only been like once or twice. And then, of course, there's that. The anxiety of asking someone that hasn't been on yet, that I don't know if I'm going to have a good conversation with them or not.
Oh, totally.
Like, there's a couple people I want on the show, but I'm just like, I don't want a bunch of dead space. How am I going to be able to converse with them? Are they going to be able to feed off of me?
Or will you get them at their 100%? Like, if you have a character in your life, you're worried bringing that character to your show and expecting them to be them. As soon as this thing is in front of them, they might change.
Oh, yeah. One of the reasons I enjoy Podcastrophe is a conversation show, and it's a show where I have multiple people. I prefer to have 2 to 3 guests.
Yeah.
And that way they can feed off of each other.
I've been a guest.
And I know. That way they can feed off of each other, and I don't have to put forth that full... so that takes a little anxiety off of me.
It takes the stress away to know that there are more people to fill the space of talking. Because, and of course, now I will say this too, and I don't know if you'll relate to this. I know when doing Journey into Comics, if we've got a team of 4, team of 5, we're doing a Nerds the Round or something, in my head I almost feel like I'm secretly commanding everybody at the table without saying anything, but I have to be mindful of not only what they're saying, but how long they're saying it, what's going on here. Do I need to interject and say, okay, well, maybe we should move on to this person's topic, or we need to talk about this thing, we skipped this thing. So you become more of a you're like a conversation planner.
Yes.
While
Yeah.
still being a part of a conversation. It can get kind of tricky. You almost are like, what time is it? What did you just say? What time? Oh shit, I lost. You know what I'm saying? Like you kind of multitasking can become difficult.
But I use the multiple people thing as kind of like a buffer. I do it in real, like outside of podcasting too. Like if I haven't hung out with you and I don't know you on like a super tight level, I'll be like, hey, do you want to hang out? Okay. Hey, and I'll ask other people if we like get a group. That way I can use the people I do know as a buffer.
Yeah.
You know, to get to know them, and then I can get chummy with them, and I'll do the same thing with my podcast. Like if I haven't had you on there yet, I'll be like, hey, Tyler, come on.
Yeah, Tyler, come back and co-host this one with me.
Yeah.
Please? Like,
So
no, I'm not giving you please anymore. Do it. You're coming on. Join me.
Which
Jesus.
he's okay with it. I think, hey, we're doing a podcast. Okay.
I feel like at some point I'm going to have to interview Tyler on this show.
Please do.
I think that would be interesting. I
He
think
is-
also
he's
Rolo
such an
on this show could be interesting.
Oh man. So I told him, I was like, you need to get on Voice, and I will literally ride up there with you to be there for it.
I'm down anytime. Seriously, we'll plan. We'll look at the schedule. Maybe
And
Rolo can
he's
be
from
13.
up here too. So
Is he really?
Yeah, I can't remember where he's from.
I feel like he said Cherville, maybe.
Yeah.
Or Maryville, one of those two. No, Nick is from Maryville.
Yeah.
Because that was shocking to me that someone down in Lafayette knew about the region. I was like, what? You know about the region?
you know about this bullshit.
Really? Of course, last night I'm dealing cards, and they're like, where are you from? I'm like, Northwest Indiana. They like to call themselves the region. And they looked at me, and I was like, they think they're Chicago. And I just started laughing. I was like, ask somebody from the region where they're from. They're going to tell you Chicago. Because I used to do that. People don't know where a fucking region is, but they know Chicago. It's close enough.
we always gave Torres shit about it because he'd be like, yeah, I'm from the region. And I'd be like, they're like, what region? Like north, south,
region.
Like there are multiple regions. Like there's no specific. No, he's like, no, it's the region, and we're like, God, shut up.
Yeah, it's the worst. It's the worst. Okay, so we've talked about podcasting. We talked about music. I think there's one last little thing. If you have time for it, we don't have to today.
What's
I kind
up?
of want to dive into a little bit of your tattoo stuff. I feel like
Okay.
you're a walking mixture of billboard and just creative memeing, if that makes sense.
Oh boy.
I mean, I don't think I've seen every tattoo you have. Are you only arm coverage?
I have one on my leg. You've seen
I
Darth
knew that
Revan.
one. Yep, Darth Revan.
I have one on my back.
I don't think I've seen the back tat.
Do you want to?
Is it upper?
Yeah.
What is it?
You want to see it?
Sure.
Well, I also have that boy on my side.
Okay.
You've seen that, haven't
Yeah,
you?
I've seen that. I don't think I've seen the back.
All right.
He's undressing in front of me. Folks. Okay. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love that you have a heartogram. Amazing. I'm a huge him fan. So to see that,
That was my third tattoo.
awesome.
Haven't-
Painful.
Never gotten it touched up. It was 2 sessions. First was the black and the gray. Next was the red.
Yeah.
And it's a Celtic cross. I did this in Photoshop. It's a Celtic cross with a heartogram, which is the logo for him, and the story behind that, which maybe my next episode we can go into more of my personal life.
Sure, yeah.
If you want. But the story behind that was, so I met this kid between my 8th grade and freshman year.
Okay.
And I knew him for about 2 weeks. Easily one of the best friends of my life.
Wow.
And from what I understand, that was just who he was. So, like literally the second day of my freshman year, I got a phone call from my mom. Without going into like, he lived in Iowa.
Okay.
He was visiting for the summer.
Sure.
So I get a phone call from my mom as soon as I get out of school. She's crying. She says, "Hey, something happened to Nathan."
Weird.
Nate.
Okay.
I always refer to him as Nate. But I was like, in my head, I'm like, great. He was fucking I'm like, what did he do? Was he running his mouth or something? Because he lived in Sioux City, and it was pretty thug town, you know.
Okay, totally.
And that was just him and his sister, who lives up here in Hammond, by the way.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
you went and saw them.
Yeah, last time I was up here.
Yeah.
So he had died. He had passed away, got hit by a truck.
That's
But one of the things we had always talked about was, in that 2 weeks of being best friends, what we talked about was getting our first tattoo together. And we were going to do like Bam Margera style, get the heartogram around the belly button.
Awesome.
You know, and obviously I didn't do that, but I wanted to memorialize that and that was 2005.
Wow.
And
You graduated.
2009 is when I got it.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's my memorial to him.
Well, that's
I obviously had to include the heartogram.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that was the whole point
it
of the
was
conversation. I feel like that you opened my eyes up to what your next episode of Voice will be.
Oh, yeah.
Which is literally going to be talking about each individual tattoo. I think that was a good teaser for the next episode. We'll kind of leave it there today for now.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you memorialized a friend. I don't think there's a lot to really be said about that. That's a very noble thing to do of a person. You know, you're memorializing someone who you knew for a short time, impacted your life greatly.
Oh,
I feel like
that's just the tip of the iceberg for how that impacted me.
I feel and we'll definitely dive deeper into that. I'm going to ask one last weird little question that's based off of this tattoo. So, was it weird to you when I came into your life? I'm guessing I'm probably not the first Nate you met.
Oh no, not at all.
I feel like you have a couple Nates that you work with, Vanderwall, and there's
just
another
Nate,
one.
just Nate Vanderwall.
Okay, there's just him, and then there's me. Are we the only two?
I think, as far as I know, yeah, you're the only
Okay.
Nates. I'm sure there's a few Nathans or Nathaniels here and there, but
Gotcha.
not that I can think of. But no, it's not weird for me at all. Like I said, that was my freshman year. That was a lifetime ago.
Still, man, I know what it's
I've
like.
had several lifetimes
since then.
then.
I know what that's like too.
Different phases and
different personalities of yourself. I understand that totally. Well, Dick, thank you so much for coming on today.
Of course.
I'm so glad we got this first one out of the way. We kind of got a little bit of your musical background and stuff. So like I said, next time you're on The Voice of Survival, we're going to look pretty much exclusively at all your tattoos. I think I'd like to do inventory of your tattoos and picture form for the Instagram.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And then collage them so we can share all your stories. I'm certain every tattoo on your body has a really interesting story. It's not just
to an extent, yeah.
You didn't just go, yeah, fuck it, I'll just get this. There's a lot of people that do that. They go get the Friday the 13th tattoo, and they don't really care that much about Friday the 13th, but it's $10. They get the little 13. They're like,
I'm not going to say I don't have a tattoo like that.
But for the most part.
Yeah. Even the stupid ones have somewhat deep meaning.
Sure.
I only have 3 stupid ones that I'm okay with saying yep, this is stupid.
It makes for a great story,
It
though,
does.
right? It makes
does.
you. It makes you yourself, which is the whole point of this. Before we leave, I always open the floor up to my guests. Is there anything we didn't cover in the early interim of this section of your story?
I think we covered this pretty well, and like I said, there's always next episode.
Sure.
And I'm an open book. I have zero issues saying anything about my life. Nothing is secret.
Sure. I love that.
If I could, I'd like to ask a favor of your listeners.
Sure.
Hey guys, Voice of Survival listeners, Journey into Comic Network fans. I need you guys to just live by a simple code, and that is to make every day a big dick day.
I don't think we could do that any better. Now I feel like that's got to be the closer. You're going to have to send me that song so that can be the closer for the episode. We'll just do it that way. It'll be confusing.
Good old pizza face.
Podcastrophe? They're not. What? We're not on. This is Voice of Survival. I'm so confused. But as always, folks, check out the Voice of Survival on all the different social media sites. Voice of Survival on Instagram, Voice of Survival Podcast on Twitter, the Voice of Survival Podcast on Facebook. You can get all the Journey into Comics Network at journeyintocomics.com. Get us on all the different podcasting platforms, whether it's iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music. Guess what? We are now also a part of Spotify. If you want, you can check out the network on Spotify.
That's so exciting.
It's amazing. It's going to open up the door to new listeners because not everybody wants to download a podcasting app.
Yeah.
But
not everybody has iTunes.
But almost every single phone in existence can have Spotify.
Yep.
And it's super easy. You can get your music there. You can get your podcast there. It's great. I've checked it out. I'm very, very happy that has happened for us. Check out Podcastrophe on the Journey into Comics Network. Get all of Blaine's different stuff on Podcastrophe Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. Mm-hmm. Podcastrophe on Facebook. He's the only real Podcastrophe on Facebook, just so you know. You'll see another one, but it's not there. They don't count.
The one with my face.
The one with Dick's face, yes. Not Dick face, with Dick's face. You got to make sure to. It's very confusing. All right, folks. Well, Dick, thank you once again so much for being on. It was a pleasure. we're gonna sign out how you do. So I want to just make sure to let all my listeners know, as you told them once before, we need to make sure we make every day a big dick day.
Woke up this morning with my dick in my hand. Girl is to the right of me, just like our plan. It's gonna be a big dick day. 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 Big dick day. It's gonna be a big dick day. It's gonna be a big dick day. It's gonna be a big dick day.